Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 2 of the Showtime limited series Dexter New Blood, entitled Storm of Fuck. The title is based upon a line that Dexter utters very early in the episode. He discovers that he missed a blood trail while he was disposing of Matt Caldwell, and he's trying to get it covered up before Harrison wakes up. He's like shoveling snow on top of these blood stains, and then his girlfriend Angela, who's the chief of police, rolls up with like 4 or 5 police cars, which at the time we didn't even know it was Angela. I mean, we could presume it was, but we just see like 4 or 5 cars pulling up, and we don't know what the fuck's going on, and neither does Dexter. And he says something to the effect of, "This is a storm of fuck," something to that degree. This didn't require the level of insight that I kind of bring into my title analyzing with Succession. This one's pretty straightforward, but pretty solid title. I like to see a little bit of good profanity in my episode titles every now and then, but I thought this was a really good episode. There was an aspect of this episode that I didn't particularly care for. I'll save that for the end, but all in all, I liked this episode, and I'd say 80% of it I thought was pretty good, pretty intriguing. They're setting up a lot of potential plot lines going down the road that I think could be very interesting. I'm going to talk about a couple of those as well, but mainly this episode focused on Dexter in 2 ways. One, with him trying to cover up the murder of Matt before all the police on his property can find him. You know, he goes through the woods and I think, what do you call it, an RTV? I don't know vehicles like that, but it's some kind of off-road thing. And he's kind of like swerving to kind of like drive over the bloodstains. Sorry, Dexter, I don't think that's a great idea. But he does a good job of planting Matt's glove out by the road. He essentially built an entire narrative revolving around the deer that died on this, what they said it was like Seneca land. I guess they're Native Americans who live there, and it's against their laws to kill animals on their land. So Dexter builds the narrative that Matt kills this deer, which he did on the Seneca land, realizes he fucked up, and bails. That's the narrative that Dexter wants to build. The Native American folks discover the deer. They jump right in. They jump right on this theory with Dexter not even saying anything. He's like, "I bet Matt Caldwell did this," which, I mean, given the character that Matt Caldwell has or does not have, that's not surprising for anyone. That's a very believable story for the town. And that he jumped ship. So all Dexter had to do was plant the glove over by the highway, and the story kind of built itself out from that point. But Dexter makes a very Dexter-like decision that's revealed at the very end of the episode after Matt's dad, I was about to call him Clancy. The actor's name is Clancy. I'll talk about him in a minute too. But I think his name was Kurt Caldwell. He shows up and he gives this impassioned speech to get everybody to keep looking for Matt. And the camera pans down, and we see that Dexter has buried Matt's body and the gun underneath his fire pit in typical cocky Dexter fashion. When the police arrive at the beginning, we don't know that Matt's body is under the fire pit. But Dexter goes, "Yeah, you know, you can set up shop right by the fire pit." Like, the nerve of this guy to know that he's got the body that they're looking for under the fire pit. And he goes, "Yeah, you can set up shop by the fire pit. It's fine." Totally within Dexter's character. So bad decision, but it has Dexter's cockiness. And then the other aspect of this episode, that the other main aspect involving Dexter, is him trying to reestablish, I would say, I won't say build, but reestablish a relationship with Harrison. You know, there's an interesting moment. It's an interesting aspect of Dexter's character, because this is consistent with his character as well. Dexter likes to take a bit of truth and sell it as if it's the entire truth. So, like, there's a moment where Harrison asks him, you know, about leaving or whatnot, and he says, "Is it because of what I saw in the letter?" And he's like, "The letter?" And Harrison reads a line that says something to the effect of, like, "If you see the darkness in Harrison, watch out." I don't know what the fuck it said, but it mentioned darkness in Harrison. And he's like, you know, what was wrong with me? And Dexter's like, the classic line, "It's not you, it's me." You know, and he basically says a lot of shit that's true. I'm gonna read it off here, because, like, it's a short conversation, but, like, at multiple points within a handful of sentences, he says things that are true. You see, he tells Harrison he was concerned that he'd corrupt him. True, he was. That he has a dark side, also true, as we know, and that he went to a dark place after Rita died and after Deb died, also true. I mean, he conveniently leaves out the whole serial killer thing, and that's like the real reason that he doesn't want his darkness to infect Harrison. He leaves that out, but this sounds like a fully built out, entire truth kind of explanation. And we know that even though all of those things are true, like those three things that I read as true make up probably about 3% of the actual reason he left. And the other 97% is him having a problem with killing people. But that's kind of where we spent most of this episode. I thought it was really interesting stuff. We learned a lot about Harrison. And I feel like, actually, this is a good segue into two things that I wanted to talk about specifically. When I mentioned at the beginning that there are a couple of plot lines that they kind of started to lay the groundwork for that I thought would be interesting playing out throughout the rest of the season. And the first is with Harrison. We find out that Harrison had a pretty rough life. Hannah died 3 years prior, and Dexter's like, well, where have you been? And he said he basically hopped around the foster homes until he decided he was going to come find Dexter after he saw like a picture of him on Instagram. He went to, I can't remember where Dexter went at the end of the regular series, where he was like a lumberjack or some shit, but he said something like he went there, Dexter was already gone, and then he saw the Instagram post with like the bowling team or whatever, and that's how he was able to kind of like suss out where Dexter actually was. So Harrison had a rough life, and we find out that Harrison has some I don't want to say dark qualities, but he's had a troublesome childhood. So we got the foster stuff, which which I already talked about. We noticed that he can pick locks. Apparently, that must run in the family. What do you say? He had a problem with drugs. That's pretty interesting. What was the other thing? And this is not a red flag, but it's an interesting kind of distinction, I think, between Dexter and Harrison. There's a moment where they're having a conversation, and he can see that Harrison's kind of eyeballing Angela's daughter. And he says, if you want to chill inside, that's cool. I wasn't great with meeting people when I was in high school. And Harrison is like, I went 10 years without you. I'm good. And he walks like right up to her with like complete, no issues. He's just going to go up and talk to her. And that's uncommon with high school aged boys in general, to just confidently walk up to a woman like that. But for me, that reads as somebody who has had life experiences as such that would allow him to kind of like that level of pressure that you might find if you're your average, we'll say, 16-year-old kid. You're gonna have that concern of like, okay, am I gonna get shot down? Am I gonna, that fear of rejection, right? Obviously, not every guy has that. Some guys, get past that early or whatever. But by and large, teenage boys struggle with just approaching women like that, just straight up. And the fact that he was able to do that kind of tells me that fear that most teenage boys have, that fear of rejection from walking up to a woman and just talking to her, is probably small potatoes compared to what Harrison has been through. And I mean that outside of what we already know, like the abandonment and whatnot, but like from the foster homes and whatever his life was like when he was learning how to pick locks and do drugs. Getting rejected by a girl is probably not something that he has very much fear of. So I think all of that kind of plays into this idea that Harrison has had a life that could lead him in a direction that I think could make this season pretty interesting. I'm wondering if I feel like it'd be super obvious, and I don't know if they're gonna go this direction. I kind of hope they do, because it might be interesting. It will definitely be interesting, but it will be super predictable. But like if Harrison maybe ends up killing one of these other kids, because like they're rooting around in his bag while he's gone. He sees it, says nothing, which is also interesting. He doesn't come back like, what are you going through my bag for? Like what happened in any other TV show. He sees it, doesn't do anything, makes noise to alert them he's coming back, and that's it. He doesn't do anything with it. But, he talks about the drugs and shit like that. Angela's daughter seems pretty fucking impressed, and one of the other guys looked like he was kind of feeling a little jealousy. So I wonder if like they're gonna butt heads at some point. Maybe Harrison kills this guy on purpose by accident, or he kills someone else, and Dexter kind of has to take him under his wing, like, oh, this is perfect. Now I can open you up to the 97% of my life and the reason that I left you that I didn't tell you about. So that'd be an interesting direction to kind of have Dexter trying to simultaneously avoid being caught for killing Matt, but also trying to help his son navigate getting away with killing someone as well. So my gut feels like that's probably the direction they're gonna go, but I kind of hope I'm wrong because I feel like that's kind of obvious. But I'll take it as long as it's not cringe-worthy bad. And then the other thing that they laid out that I thought was kind of interesting, and this isn't so much a plot line, it's just kind of like what I think will be like the nature of the show. I like how in episode 1, before Dexter killed Matt, things were very different. He didn't have that internal monologue. Deb was very supportive, very kind, very nurturing, all that kind of stuff. Like, we're going to help get through these 10 years. We're going to help you get through not having to, not telling Harrison who you actually are, for his own safety. Very supportive. After he kills Matt, well, I don't think we see Deb again after he kills Matt. I'm not sure. But in this episode, which is obviously still post-Matt, she's very aggressive, very angry, swearing like the Deb that we know. She's like grabbing him, like putting bullets down his throat. Like his dynamic with Ghost Deb, which is what fair warning, I'm going to call her Ghost Deb throughout the whole rest of the season, by the way. His dynamic with Ghost Deb is very different than his dynamic with Harry. And I think that could make for a very interesting, I'm not even gonna say interesting, it could make for a very entertaining aspect of this show to have Deb being Deb, giving Dexter shit, and just really coming down hard on him throughout this whole thing, and that possibly affecting his ability to get his shit together and cover his tracks and do all the things that Dexter does. So I find both of those potential one plot line for Harrison and two brother-sister dynamic for Dexter and Deb. I find both of those things to be pretty interesting. So interesting stuff there. But the episode as itself, not too much happened. It really was just trying to cover up the Matt thing. But it was a good episode. It was an interesting episode. I think we've kind of been with these first two. Again, you got to build the groundwork. You got to lay the foundation for what you're going to do. We know that this is probably just going to be these 10 episodes and that's it. So I figure these two are probably all we're going to get as far as like building a foundation and laying groundwork for the season. And the season's probably going to take off next week. If you looked at the preview for next week, it looks like a whole lot of shit's happening. Dexter's head gets slammed up against the wall. It sounds like they must find Matt's body. There's a bear. I don't know what the fuck that's about. So all kinds of interesting stuff there. But let's see, what else did I have that I want to mention? So let me talk about the thing that I didn't like. So last week we had one scene, and I'm going to explain myself here. We had one scene with a girl who was like a drifter or something who was in town. She said she was leaving on a bus the next day. She wanted to make sure she had bus fare, so Angela paid for her to get a burger at the bar. Later, there's a protest outside the bar, and I'm terrible with faces. Terrible. I thought that Angela's daughter was the drifter girl last week. I thought they were the same person. So when we got to that scene last week, I thought that the person who poured out the coffee and who was there, I thought it was that drifter girl. So I assumed she was in town to kind of like boycott this billionaire. But then when I watched it today, and I think he even says at some point, like, was that your daughter who was at the thing? And I'm like, what is he talking about? I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh shit, it is the daughter. It wasn't the drifter. So the drifter we only see in that one scene. Now we see her again this week, right at the beginning of the episode. And she looks like she's in maybe a cabin or a hotel room. She doesn't seem panicked, which makes me think that she went there on purpose. She's in the bathroom, and she comes out, and there's a champagne bottle and like chocolate covered strawberries. And she kind of looks around almost like, did somebody come in here and put this here? But then she like calmly drinks, like she's drinking, she's eating the strawberries. She knocks out. She wakes up the next morning. Like, she doesn't seem like someone who's been captured. Basically, let me put it that way. She discovers that she can't get out of this room and then panics. She sees the camera in the corner. It says you're dead already or you're already dead. One of those two variations of the same idea. And she freaks out. And I felt like that whole part of this episode was incredibly sloppy because we don't know jack shit about this girl. and I need to be able to place myself. Like, okay, like, did she decide to stay in a hotel? Is she in that shelter? Because you remember Angela recommended, like, if you need a place to stay, and she pointed at some woman, she has a shelter down the road. Is she at that shelter? Like, I don't know, but she wasn't captured because she was way too calm. But then why did she come out and look confused when the champagne bottle was there? So, like, who is she? Where is she? How did she get there? Why doesn't she seem panicked until she realizes that she can't get out? But, like, I don't know. Like, did he come in and, like, change the door while she was knocked out from the champagne? Like, there's way too much that didn't make sense with that aspect of this episode. Now, as they continue to flesh this out, no pun intended, that might make more sense. Maybe we'll find out where she was, how she got there, all that good stuff. But in this episode, I didn't like that aspect of it because it had no weight with me because I had no clue what the fuck was going on. Like I said, we saw her get the burger. We didn't even get a, like, I'm gonna go. Oh, I'm good. I already got a hotel for the night, or I'm staying here for the night, or a scene where she gets kidnapped or so, nothing, or a scene of, even a scene of her in a lobby at a hotel or a motel or at a cabin or rental, whatever, getting a room. You know, something to help explain how she got from the bar to wherever she is, since we don't know where she is, why she was so calm, and then why she was confused. And I don't know. It was very confusing scene with her. So several scenes with her. So I didn't particularly care for that. I thought that was a little messy, but I think that's going somewhere. I was trying to kind of piece together where she might be at, because whoever has her captured, that has the camera in there, is watching her on a monitor that looks to be about the size of maybe like an iPad, like a bigger size tablet. And he's watching her on that. And then later in the episode, Angela goes up to that billionaire guy's house, and she rings like this buzzer for the door, and whoever's like security or whatever, they look like they're looking at her on the same screen that the person who has the drifter girl captured is looking at. I paused it and I went back and compared the two different shots. The shot from the camera in the room that the kidnapper, whoever is looking at, looks like a tablet, but you can't see because the bottom of the screen is cut off. You can't see if it's connected to like a keyboard, like a laptop would be. But the security monitor, when Angela shows up at the billionaire's place, it's cut off about like an inch lower, and you can see that it is connected to a laptop. So I don't know if we're meant to think that it's the same screen, and we're meant to think that maybe that billionaire guy has her captured, or if that's just me doing too fucking much. I don't know. But hey, that's what I'm here for, is to dig into these episodes and give you guys my thoughts and some information. So before I wrap up, a couple of thoughts I had. There's been this whole thing going on that they haven't spent too much time on. There's like a throwaway line, kind of, in, I don't want to say a line, maybe like a throwaway kind of feeling kind of scene in the first episode where they talk about missing girls, which, if you got a missing girl problem in this small town, I feel like the show should be making a much bigger deal of it than it has so far. But whatever the case may be, there's some missing girls that have been in this town. I think there was like 3 or 4 pictures of girls up on Angela's wall at the police station. Presumably, this girl is going to be another missing girl that's going to be added to that wall. But there's a moment where Angela's daughter says, "I'm not Iris." Who's Iris? Is that maybe like, we find out in this episode that I think her name's Audrey. The daughter is not actually Angela's birth daughter, that she was adopted because she was abandoned by her mother, and that Angela's made no effort to find this person. Maybe Iris is Angela's real daughter, and something happened to her, so that's why she's so protective of Audrey. Maybe Iris is one of the missing girls and has some sort of personal connection to Angela. I don't know, but who is Iris? I'm sure we'll find out. And then we finally meet Clancy Brown as Matt's father. And if you ever seen Clancy Brown anything, you know we're in for a treat. He should be a good foil for Dexter. I suspect that Clancy Brown is probably going to be here for the duration of the season and is going to be a thorn in Dexter's side as it pertains to not just getting away with killing Matt, but also I'm assuming Dexter's probably going to kill a couple other people on the way to the season finale. And I'm sure Clancy Brown's character is going to have a say in that as well. So interesting stuff there. I'm curious if this billionaire is kidnapping women, but like they have so many different angles at play, like something going on with this billionaire. Like he threatened, like, did you guys interpret his conversation with Angela as almost kind of a threat? Because he says like, was that your daughter at the protest? And he's like, she looks at the world very black and white, yada yada yada, and that leaves out the fact that, and he runs off a list of like all these charitable things he's done for the town. It almost kind of sounds like he's saying like, don't forget all the good stuff I've done for this town, and maybe your daughter's bad mouth or big mouth can make me stop being charitable to the town. Not necessarily a threat toward the daughter, but more of a like threat of like, don't let your daughter fuck up a good thing. Like she keeps going off, you might find you get a lot less charity from me. So that's kind of the vibe that I got from that. Not feeling this guy, and like I said, the screens kind of felt like they matched up to me. So I'm wondering if he's the one who's kidnapping women. Very risky play for a billionaire since they're very much in the spotlight, but we'll see. All in all, pretty good episode, solid episode. Not great, but solid. And I think, again, it's only solid because I feel like we're just building a foundation of what, so we can all know what's going on with Dexter currently. We can build up the Harrison thing. We can get that relationship established. We can get the relationship with Angela established. And then now we can kind of like, I think now we're going forward, we're going to really get into the plot a little bit more, and things are going to get a little bit more exciting. So enjoying Dexter so far, and I will see you guys back next week for episode 3. And I do plan, this is my plan, I can't guarantee it, but I noticed that Showtime releases the episodes on demand at the beginning of Sunday. So I don't have to wait until potentially 9 o'clock to watch it. I don't watch it at 9, I watch Succession, but my hope is to watch Dexter early on Sunday and get these videos up on Sunday, and then Monday I can focus on Succession. So that's the plan going forward. Fingers crossed I'll be able to pull that off. So either way, I'll see you guys next Sunday or next Monday for episode 3. Peace.